All right, hey, it's Brian. I'm going to go through the pre-AI prime lenses today from the focal length range 24 to 135 millimeters. Just give you some tips as to what you might want to look for if you are shopping for pre-AI Nikkor lenses. A couple of things to talk about preliminarily. Number one, you need to know what this stuff means around the outside of the lens. I've done a separate video explaining the writing. The most significant piece of writing on the around the front element is that little C right there, which stands for multi-coating. That's what you want to look for. Likewise, when you're shopping for pre-AI lenses, it's going to be a buyer's market here in the very near future. I expect prices to go down, so cherry pick, be picky. Get it when you're shopping for pre-AI lenses. Get one with a good, proper factory AI conversion. That is, you'll see the secondary row of aperture numbers here called the ADR scale, and a metering prong with holes in it right here, as opposed to the solid metering prong, which characterizes the unmodified pre-AI lenses. But please see the video I did on the writing around the front element, and also a separate video on AI conversions. You need to know this stuff if you're going to be shopping for pre-AI lenses. Now, for 24 millimeters, there was only one pre-AI series lens, and that's this one, the Nikkor N, or which later became the Nikkor NC. 9 elements and 7 groups. This optical formula remained constant throughout the pre-AI series, including the K series. K-series lenses, you also need to know about if you're shopping for pre-AI, are pre-AI lenses which do not have the metal focusing rings. If you see these scalloped metal focusing rings, then you know the lens was originally produced as a pre-AI series, even if it has a good AI conversion. There were, however, a number of pre-AI lenses, quite a few pre-AI lenses manufactured from 74 to 77, which have a rubber focusing ring and yet are nonetheless manufactured as pre-AI. They did not come from the factory with an AI compatible configuration. I do not own any of those lenses, but briefly speaking, in essence, you're talking about a lens which has a rubber focusing ring, an unmodified aperture ring. Most of them are characterized by the hyperfocal marks underneath the focusing ring like this, as opposed to the hyperfocal marks between the chrome strip and the focusing ring, as you see here. Also, some lenses you'll see the hyperfocal marks on the chrome strip like you see here. Most of the K-series pre-AI lenses had the hyperfocal marks underneath the focusing ring like this. That's a characteristic of that series. So for 24 millimeters, the AI version of this lens was introduced in 1977, had a slightly modified optical formula. This has 9 elements and 7 groups. The new formula had 9 elements and 9 groups. The new optical formula remains in production to this day. You can still buy it in both manual and autofocus versions, indicating a strong vote of confidence in that optical formula by the Nikon engineers. So the question is there anything wrong with this optical formula? As far as I can tell, no. I don't have any test results. I haven't done any serious pixel peeping comparing this and the newer optical formula, but nonetheless, I've used this lens. I'm very happy with it. I don't have any major problems with it. If you can find one that's multi-coated, has a good AI conversion, and it's less expensive than the AI version, you might want to pick it up just for variety in your collection. But in general, in terms of optical quality, the AI version of the 24-28, I'm betting that's optically superior because of the fact that it was introduced in 77 and remains in production today in both manual and autofocus configurations. That tells me a lot about what Nikon thinks of that optical formula. All right, moving on to 28 millimeters. This is the 28 3.5. This was introduced as a pre-AI lens. This obviously is the AI series. But the optical formula did not change, and these things are pretty inexpensive regardless of whether it's an AI or pre-AI configuration. Given the prices I expect will be going down, I see no reason to favor a pre-AI over an AI version in this lens. The optical formula remained the same, so if you can find a pre-AI version that has a good factory AI conversion and it's multi-coated, then it's going to be optically identical to this. So that's fine, but I see no reason to get a 28-35 which does not have a good AI conversion or is single coated. Given the price of these things, I just don't see any value in that. Likewise, in 28 millimeters, you've got the 28 f2. This optical formula, this is the AIS version, but it's the same optical formula as was originally introduced with the multi-coated series. Would have been in the early 70s, perhaps 71. So there is a version of this lens with the scalloped metal focusing rings, but to my knowledge, all of them are multi-coated, so that's not something you need to worry about with this optical formula. So if you find a multi-coated version of this lens in PreAI, which has a good AI conversion, no advantage or disadvantage vis-a-vis this. Yeah, of equivalent value. Although this being the AIS lenses tend to be a little bit more expensive, though for no good reason in my opinion. So if you find a 28 f2 with a good AI conversion, optically, it's just as good as this thing. I'll say a word about the 28 millimeter f2.8. That was introduced originally as a K series and maintained the same optical formula throughout the AI series, although it did change with the AIS. The 28-28, the AIS is the best optical formula. The 28-28 in AI and K series pre-AI is, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not one of the famous ones. So they should be fairly inexpensive. You can tell the pre-AI from the AI version of the 28-28 from the placement of the hyperfocal marks. If the hyperfocal marks are here, or as they are here between the chrome strip and the focusing ring, then it's an AI version, or it was originally manufactured as an AI version. If the hyperfocal marks are underneath the focusing ring as they are on this lens, then it was originally produced as a pre-AI K series, though optically no difference. All right, moving on to 35 millimeters. There's lots to talk about. This is the longest running optical formula with respect to all Nikon prime lenses ever. The Nikkor N3514. It's still in production to this day, same optical formula. So there's really no advantage or disadvantage to the pre-AI or AI or AIS. They're all the same optically. So just find the one. If you're shopping for pre-AI, look for a good AI conversion. But other than that, they're all the same. The only caveat to that, this is a very early lens that has a thorium rear element. I know it's a thorium rear element because it was yellow when I bought it. I sat it out in the sunshine and it cleared up. I think there may be some collector value to that. At least one website I've seen indicates the thorium rear element is a prototype or describes it as a prototype. But again, same optical, I think 9 elements in, I want to say 9 and 7 groups, but I'm not sure. It's 9 elements and it's a 9-element optical formula. And the formula remained constant and up to today. So given that the formula remains constant, any version of this, as long as it's got a good AI conversion, is going to have the same usefulness. That is the same value in terms of optical quality. The 35 millimeter f2. This is Nikon's most successful 35 millimeter focal length lens of the manual focus era. Same optical formula was introduced in, I forget exactly when, but it was introduced as a pre-AI version such as this one. You see this one says Nikkor O. So this is a single-coated pre-AI version. Also, take a look, this has a flat base. So this is the least desirable of all possible versions of this lens because it is single-coated and it has a flat base, unmodified. You see the prongs here are solid. They do not have any holes in them, and you do not see the second row of aperture numbers, and you do not see any ridges on the base of this lens, indicating it is unmodified pre-AI. Optically, however, the optical formula remains constant. I believe this lens, if I recall correctly, was in production for 40 years, uninterrupted or something like that. It was a long production run. Might not have been 40 years. At any rate, excellent lens, but again, don't get this version. I bought this one because it was inexpensive. I just happened to get a good price on it, and I had never owned one, so I just picked one up. But for 35 f2, make sure it says Nikkor O N. You want the N there for, not N, excuse me, C there for the multi-coated. And you also want a good AI conversion, in which case it would be optically identical to the AI or AIS. Righty, the 35-8 is an interesting story in and of itself. I've done a separate video about the 35-8, so please have a look at that video. I'd rather not. I got a lot to cover here, so just look at that video separately with respect to the 35mm f2.8. Moving on to 50 millimeters. The first 50-ish millimeter lens, f1.4, introduced by Nikon, was the 5.8 centimeter f1.4. These are sort of rare and optically questionable. People generally collect these because it gives sort of a vintage look, but optically this thing was it's got all the cool, hip, groovy optical defects you could want. If you're looking for, I mean, if your collection is pretty full and you're just looking to fill something out with something different, then yeah, pick up one of these. But other than that, there's really not much to recommend it optically. If you're looking for sharpness, lack of defects, flatness of field, lack of vignetting, and so forth, this is not your lens. But if you want something with a nice vintage look to it, yeah, sure, if you can find one for cheap. Hard to find one with a good AI conversion. This one has a Workbench AI conversion, which works well enough. But this one's kind of questionable. Again, this is, it has its uses, but it's certainly optically not one of Nikon's best. It was replaced. It was only in production for a couple of years. I think it was from 1959 to 1961, if I recall, and was replaced by this one. This is a nice lens, the Nikkor SC51-4. It is a very, very it's highly sought after. It's a very highly regarded lens. These things, they sell for less than the AI versions. There is a difference in the optical formula, though it is subtle. It is a very subtle difference, and I did some indoor portraiture with this lens not too long ago, and I was really blown away. It's just fantastic. You put this thing at about f2 or f2.8 for some indoor portraits, and you're just going to get some beautiful results. Highly recommended. If you can find one with, again, multi-coated, good AI. Now this is unmodified pre-AI. If you can find one with a good AI conversion, multi-coating, you're going to be just as happy with this as you would with the AI version of the 51-4. Highly recommended. Go ahead and pick one up. I'll say a word about the 50mm f2. The optical formula of the f2 did not change. There is no reason to prefer a pre-AI over an AI version of the 50mm f2. Those lenses are very inexpensive, and they're not going up in value anytime soon. So for 50 f2, again, if you find one that's multi-coated with a good AI conversion, then that's fine. Otherwise, there's no reason to prefer a pre-AI over an AI version in the 50mm f2. Moving on to 85mm. This is one of the lenses which was changed completely when Nikon switched from pre-AI to AI. The pre-AI 85mm is an f1.8 lens. This one has a good AI conversion. It is, however, single-coated. You can tell that because it says Nikkor H, but it doesn't have the C. So this is not the most desirable configuration of this lens. It has one of two characteristics which you should look for. That is the AI conversion, but not multi-coated. But it has a very different, distinct look than its successor. It was replaced by the 85mm f2, which is much smaller and lighter than this. This is a big, chunky chunk of glass. And I was honestly prepared not to like it when I bought it. I just bought it to sort of round out the collection back when I was spending money to do stuff like that. However, I'm very happy with the look. It has a real vintage look to it. It's got a very different look than the 85mm f2. Under the right circumstances, you can get a little bit of swirl in the background. I like it. I'm very impressed with this lens. I did do some shots on my DSLR, the D700, with this thing, and the color reproduction was horrendous. That may be better with the multi-coated version, I don't know. But certainly for black and white, This has a neat look to it, and I do recommend it. If as prices go down, pick one up. Again, look for one that's multi-coated and it's got a good AI conversion. You will not be disappointed. Moving on to 105. Likewise, I've done a separate video on the 105. There was a major change in optical formula during the pre-AI period. Essentially, long story short, if your 105 has a silver front ring, then it is a Sonnar formula a lens. If it has a black front ring, then it is the new optical formula. The differences are subtle. I'm not going to say that one is more desirable than the other. Personally, I like Sonnar formula lenses, so I have this one, but it's purely a matter of taste. Pick the one which is right for you. In pre-AI, if you do want the Sonnar formula, there is no multi-coated version. So if you are buying the 105 in pre-AI and you find one with the black front ring, make sure it's multi-coated. Make sure it has the C after the P here. Other than that, that's just as good as the AIS version, which sells for considerably more. Again, I've done a separate video on this. Have a look at that one if you're shopping for 105s. Lastly, let's get to the 135 focal length. So in 135, you've got the 135-35, which is also a Sonnar formula lens. I've done a separate video on this lens as well. Have a look at that. I'm very happy with the 135-35 QC I've got right here. When Nikon went from, when they converted to AI in 1977, Nikon changed the optical formulas of both of their 135 millimeter lenses. In both pre-AI and AI, there is 135-35 and 2.8. So you've got 4 optical formulas in 135 millimeter. You've got 135-35 pre-AI, which is this. You've also got the AI version. And in 135-2.8, you also have the pre-AI and AI versions, which have different optical formulas. I do not own the pre-AI 2.8 because it is a big, heavy, chunky piece of glass. And I do not like big, heavy, chunky lenses, so I didn't buy it. So I can't tell you anything about that. I have no idea what its optical qualities are, good, bad, or indifferent. I express no opinion. The 135-35 I do recommend. It is a really nice lens, and these things are dirt cheap. And they ain't getting any more expensive anytime soon. Again, look for the multi-coated version with a good AI conversion. This is unmodified pre-AI, again, which you can tell from the solid metering prong, lack of ADR scale, and flat bottom. All right, so that is a quick and dirty rundown of what you might want to look for if you are shopping for pre-AI Nikon lenses. I hope you found this video informative. If you did, please check out the links below, and subscribe. Thank you, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.